Have you ever wondered why some people seek truth through reason, while others search for it through the soul? Why the Stoic philosopher sits in silence, dissecting his thoughts with logic, while the mystic closes her eyes, surrendering to a higher presence? At first glance, Stoicism and Spiritualism seem like two different worlds. One rational, disciplined, almost cold. The other mystical, intuitive, almost otherworldly. But what if they are not opposites at all? What if they are two paths leading to the same destination, the same hidden truth about life, suffering, and the human soul? In this journey, we will step into both worlds. We will see where the Stoic discipline meets the spiritual surrender, where logic shakes hands with faith, where the boundaries between reason and soul dissolve, and what emerges is a single truth that has been waiting for us all along. If you pause for a moment and ask yourself, what do I really control in this life? You might think about your career, your relationships, your future. But when storms arrive, when the unexpected crashes through the door, you realize something humbling. Most of life is outside your grasp. The Stoics were brutally honest about this. They said, fortune, wealth, health, reputation, these are not truly yours. They belong to chance, to time, to forces bigger than you. And the more you cling to them, the more fragile you become. But there is one thing, one treasure, that remains untouchable: your inner world. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, wrote in his journal during a time of war, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about it. Everything can be stripped away. Your possessions, your status, even your body. Yet your capacity to choose how you interpret, how you respond, how you endure, this remains. And here's where spiritualism whispers in agreement, though it uses a different language. The mystic says, the world is illusion. The real you is not the body, not the story, not the noise. The real you is the eternal soul within. When you anchor yourself to that, nothing can harm you. Do you see the parallel? The Stoic speaks of reason, of a disciplined mind. The spiritualist speaks of the soul, of divine energy. Two different maps, pointing to the same hidden city, inner freedom. To bring this closer to our lives, imagine two people caught in the same storm. The first screams at the rain, curses the sky, and shakes his fist at the heavens. He is consumed by something he can never control. The second feels the same rain, the same cold, the same wind, but instead of fighting, she adjusts her steps, shelters when she can, and accepts the rest as part of the path. One suffers twice, once from the storm, and once from his own resistance. The other suffers once, and even learns from it. This is the difference between losing yourself to the chaos and returning to the center within. Even modern psychology has proven this truth. There's a concept called locus of control. People who believe they control their reactions, even if they can't control circumstances, are less anxious, more resilient, and happier in the long term. Ancient wisdom, confirmed by modern science. So let me ask you, when betrayal comes, when illness strikes, when plans collapse, where do you go? Do you drown in the storm, blaming everything you cannot control? Or do you retreat inward to the one place that is always yours? The Stoic will call it the fortress of reason. The spiritualist will call it the sanctuary of the soul. But both know, the outside world will never bow to you. The inner world is waiting to be claimed. Surrender to the flow. There is a power. Not in fighting, not in forcing, but in allowing. Both the Stoics and the spiritualists discovered it, the power of acceptance. The Stoics gave us a word for this wisdom, amor fati, the love of fate. To not simply endure what happens, but to embrace it. Imagine the radical courage it takes to say, yes, even this pain, even this loss, even this change, I welcome it as part of my path. Marcus Aurelius, carrying the burden of an empire, wrote in his private reflections, "A blazing fire takes whatever you throw into it and makes it light and flame." Do you hear what he is saying? Every obstacle, every misfortune, fuel. If life gives you firewood soaked with rain, you can curse the heavens, or you can burn it, and the fire of your spirit will only grow brighter. Now shift to the voice of the spiritual seeker. The mystic closes her eyes and whispers, The universe is not against you. It is guiding you. Trust the current, trust the flow. Everything you meet on the path is not an accident, it's the teaching you need right now. In one tradition, this trust is called surrender to God. In another, it is called alignment with the source. In yet another, it is called karma unfolding. Different names, one movement, letting go of the illusion of control, and allowing life to carry you where you are meant to be. But let us make this practical. Imagine a river. One traveler jumps into the water, panics, thrashes, and exhausts herself trying to swim upstream. Every wave feels like a personal enemy. Another traveler, in the very same river, learns to float. She moves with the current, adjusting her body to the rhythm of the water. She still encounters rocks, rapids, and cold. But instead of fighting, she flows. She arrives where the river takes her alive, perhaps even transformed. Which one are you when life sweeps you into currents you did not choose? Modern science echoes this ancient truth. Psychologists call it acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. They found that people who accept their emotions, instead of resisting or suppressing them, recover from trauma faster, experience less depression, and find greater meaning in adversity. What Marcus Aurelius discovered in a war camp, science now measures in laboratories. The paradox is this: when you stop fighting reality, reality softens its grip on you. Resistance makes pain heavier. Acceptance makes it lighter. As Carl Jung said, what you resist persists. Acceptance is not weakness, it is wisdom. It does not mean you stop acting, stop trying, stop creating. It means you learn to distinguish. This is within my power. This is not. Then, with clarity, you give your energy only to what is yours to shape. The rest you place gently into the hands of time, of nature, of the divine. Think of a time when you lost someone, or when a door closed. At first, the mind screamed, this should not be happening. But when days, months, years passed, when you finally breathed out and said, this is what is, did you not feel a strange freedom in that surrender? It was not joy, not yet, but it was peace. And peace is where healing begins. Both Stoicism and Spiritualism arrive at the same horizon. The Stoic says, love your fate, even the parts that break you. The Spiritualist says, trust the universe, even when it makes no sense. Different languages. Same truth. Acceptance is not a passive collapse, is an active harmony with life. Acceptance is the bridge between the chaos of events and the serenity of the soul, between the fire of suffering and the light of wisdom. And once you cross this bridge, you never look at storms the same way again. Why must we suffer? Why does life seem to insist on weaving pain and struggle into every single story? This is not a new question. It is as old as humanity itself. From the deserts where prophets wandered, to the battlefields of emperors, to the quiet caves where monks sat in meditation, every tradition has faced the riddle of suffering. The Stoics answered with brutal clarity. Seneca wrote, fire tests gold and suffering tests brave men. For him, pain was not a punishment, but a refining flame. Just as a sword must be forged in fire, so must the soul be shaped by hardship. Without the fire, the metal remains raw, soft, unformed. Without suffering, the human spirit never discovers its strength. Marcus Aurelius, carrying the burden of empire while facing war, plague, and the death of loved ones, confessed in his private writings, what stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle, he said, is not an interruption of the path, it is the path itself. To curse the obstacle is to curse your own destiny. To embrace it is to unlock your hidden strength. Now listen to the mystics. The Buddha's very first teaching after his enlightenment was about suffering. Life is dukkha, he said. Life is marked by suffering. But he did not say this with despair. He said it with compassion. Because to see suffering clearly is the first step to awakening. Pain is a mirror. It shows us our attachments, our illusions, the false stories we cling to. And once we see them for what they are, we begin to let go. Rumi, centuries later, would echo this truth in the language of the heart. The wound is the place where the light enters you. What the Stoic called fire, the mystic called light. one hard, one gentle. But both pointed to the same paradox. Suffering is not only pain, is possibility. Let us pause here. Think of your own life. The heartbreak that split you open, the illness that humbled you, the betrayal that tore your trust apart. In those moments, you may have thought, this is the end of me. Yet look closer. Did those very wounds not carve deeper rivers in your soul? Did they not make you more patient, more aware, perhaps even more compassionate toward others? Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote after the camps, "In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning." Frankl watched men stripped of everything, family, freedom, dignity, and yet those who could find meaning, even in torment, survived with their humanity intact. He called it the last freedom, to choose your attitude in any circumstance. Modern psychology confirms what Frankl, Seneca, and the Buddha already knew. There is a term called post-traumatic growth. Studies show that those who pass through deep suffering often emerge with a stronger sense of gratitude, deeper relationships, and a clearer purpose. Pain, when met with awareness, transforms. But here is the danger. Suffering can also destroy. So the same fire that tempers gold can also consume wood. What makes the difference? Perspective. Without meaning, suffering becomes despair. With meaning, suffering becomes transformation. So the question is not, why am I suffering? The question is, what will I do with this suffering? Imagine two men losing their fortunes. One curses fate, grows bitter, and withdraws from life. His suffering hardens him into stone. The other accepts the loss as a teacher. He rebuilds, wiser, humbler, more resilient. His suffering becomes soil from which new life grows. Same storm, two outcomes. And this is where Stoicism and Spiritualism meet. The Stoic whispers, turn the obstacle into fuel. The mystic whispers, turn the wound into light. Both invite us not to flee suffering, but to step into it with courage. Even collective suffering holds meaning. Consider humanity's darkest hours, wars, plagues, disasters. Out of ashes, new laws of justice were written, new bonds of compassion formed, new wisdoms born. History itself is proof, struggle births growth. So ask yourself, will you allow your pain to chain you? Or will you allow it to change you? Because suffering is not meaningless. It is a silent teacher, harsh but honest. And if you dare to listen, it may guide you to the deepest truth, that who you become is not in spite of your suffering, but because of it. There is a truth that both the Stoics and the Spiritualists whisper, though they use different words. We are not separate. We are part of a greater whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings no benefit to the bee." To him, every individual was like a single cell in the body of the universe. Your actions, your choices, your virtues, they do not exist in isolation. They ripple outward, affecting the whole. Now listen to the mystics. The Sufi says, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." The Hindu sage declares, "Tat Tvam Asi, you are that." And the Buddhist monk teaches interbeing, that to breathe is to touch clouds, rain, trees, and the entire web of life. Different voices, same melody. You are not alone. You never were. Science, too, affirms this. Every breath you take contains atoms once breathed by ancient kings, wild animals, and forgotten ancestors. The carbon in your bones was forged in the heart of exploding stars. You are not only connected to humanity, you are woven into the fabric of the cosmos itself. But what does this mean for our suffering, our choices, our daily lives? For the Stoic, it means responsibility. You are a citizen of the cosmos, bound by duty to serve the greater whole. To act unjustly, to indulge selfishly, is not only to harm others, it is to harm yourself, for you are part of them. For the spiritualist, it means compassion. If every soul is a spark of the same divine fire, then harming another is harming yourself. Love your neighbor not as a commandment, but as recognition, because they are you in another form. Think of the last time you felt utterly alone. Perhaps in grief, in rejection, in despair. Did it not feel like you were cut off from life itself? Now think of the times you felt connected to a friend, to a forest, to a community. In those moments, Didn't suffering feel lighter? Didn't life feel more bearable, even beautiful? Connection is not a luxury. It is medicine for the soul. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, we were born for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids. To act against one another is contrary to nature. And the mystic Rumi would smile and say, we are all just walking each other home. Two languages, one truth. The illusion is separation. The reality is unity. And here's the invitation for you. The next time anger rises, remember, you are not separate from the one who harmed you. The next time you feel lonely, remember, you are part of a living whole that stretches from the soil beneath your feet to the stars above your head. You are the bee and the hive, the drop and the ocean, the cell and the body, the soul and the cosmos. The Stoics called it nature. The spiritualists called it God or spirit or the infinite. But in the end, the word does not matter. What matters is this: you are not alone, you never were, and you never will be. Death, a word we rarely say out loud. Reality we all know is coming, yet we live as if it will never arrive. The Stoics urged us to face this truth, not to hide from it. Memento mori, remember that you must die. Not as a curse, not as a shadow, but as a compass for life. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, reminded himself in the quiet of his tent, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Imagine that. A man who commanded armies, who ruled over millions, whispering to himself at night, I could be gone by morning. This was not despair, it was discipline. For him, remembering death was the secret to living with urgency, with presence, with gratitude. Epictetus, once a slave, sharpened this even further. Keep death and exile before your eyes every day. Along with everything that seems terrible by doing so, you will never have a base thought, nor will you have excessive desire. If you remember death, you will not waste your life chasing empty desires. You will not bow to fear. You will live cleanly, bravely, simply. Now turn to the mystics. For them, death is not a wall, but a doorway. The Buddha built his entire path around this insight. He taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. Work out your salvation with diligence. Death was not to be feared. It was to be understood as part of impermanence. And in seeing impermanence, one awakens to what is eternal. In Hindu philosophy, the body dies, but the Atman, the soul, journeys onward, clothed in new forms through karma. The Sufi sees death as reunion, calling it the night of union with the beloved. Rumi, the mystic poet, said, don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form. To him, death was not annihilation. It was transformation, a return. Do you see it? The Stoic says, death is natural. The mystic says, death is transformation. Both free us from terror. Both invite us to live, not in denial, but in harmony with the inevitable. Even science joins the chorus. Physicists remind us that matter cannot be destroyed. The atoms in your bones were born in ancient stars. When you die, your body will dissolve, but it will not vanish. It will feed the soil, the trees, the air, the bodies of future beings. Astronomer Carl Sagan once said, we are star stuff contemplating the stars. To die is not to disappear. It is to return to the cosmos. Think of autumn leaves. They fall, they decay, they vanish. But do they really? No. They become soil, nourishing the very roots of the tree. Without the leaf's death, there is no spring blossom. Without endings, there can be no beginnings. Now let us pause and reflect. What happens when you bring death closer? When you let it sit beside you instead of hiding it away? You begin to live differently. You forgive faster. You love more urgently. You stop waiting for some distant future, and you awaken to the miracle of now. Seneca wrote, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. The tragedy is not that life ends. The tragedy is that we forget it will. Forgetting death, we drift through life half asleep. Remembering death, we wake up. And yet, death is not only personal, it is collective. Every culture has its rituals, its songs, its prayers for the dead. Why? Because deep down we know death is not just the end of one life, it is part of the great cycle that binds us all. Birth, growth, decay, return, the circle of existence. So ask yourself, not in fear, but in honesty, if tonight were your last night, would you be ready? If tomorrow never came, would you have loved enough, forgiven enough, lived enough? The Stoics say, remember death, so that you may live fully. The Spiritualists say, remember death, so that you may know you are eternal. And here lies the paradox. When you embrace death, life blossoms. When you stop fearing the end, every moment becomes infinite. Death is not the enemy. The enemy is forgetting that life is fleeting. So let us carry both truths. The Stoics whisper, memento mori, and the mystics song, you are eternal. Two voices, two languages, one truth, to live without fear of death, to finally begin to live. Why are we here? What is the true purpose of human life? This question has echoed through temples, marketplaces, palaces, and deserts. And though the answers vary, two great traditions, Stoicism and Spiritualism, offer voices that seem different, yet secretly harmonize. The Stoics were clear. The purpose of life is to live in accordance with nature. Not the forests, the rivers, or the weather, though those too matter. But by nature, they meant the order of the universe, the rational harmony of existence itself. To live against this order is chaos. To live with it is peace. For the Stoic, virtue was the path. Virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, temperance was not just a moral code. It was life's highest good. Marcus Aurelius wrote, just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. Not wealth, not fame, not comfort, not even survival. The only thing that matters is whether you lived with virtue. Seneca said it bluntly, a man cannot live well if he does not know how to die well. For him, a life of luxury, greed, or vice was not a life at all. To live rightly, with reason and integrity, that alone gave life meaning. Now turn to the mystics. They speak a different language. For them, the purpose of life is not virtue, it is awakening, to remember who you really are, to peel away the illusions of ego, desire, and fear, until only the soul remains. The Buddhist teaches, life's purpose is to awaken from ignorance. The Sufi whispers, life's purpose is to return to the beloved. The Hindu sage says, life's purpose is to realize Atman, the eternal self, one with Brahman, the infinite. So the Stoic says, live with reason. The mystic says, live with love. At first, they sound different, but look again. Virtue without love becomes rigid law. Love without virtue becomes blind sentiment, but reason and love together? That is the complete human being. Let us bring this into story. Imagine a judge, stern and fair, who follows the law but without compassion. His verdicts may be just but cold, even cruel. That is virtue without love. Now imagine a mother who loves her child so deeply she excuses every wrongdoing, never correcting, never guiding. That is love without virtue. Both are incomplete. But when wisdom and compassion unite, when virtue wears the cloak of love, and love stands on the foundation of wisdom, then life's purpose is fulfilled. Even modern psychology has stumbled onto this truth. Researchers studying meaning in life discovered two foundations: purpose and connection. Purpose comes from integrity, living for something beyond shallow desire. Connection comes from love, feeling linked to others, to nature, to the whole. Remove one, and life collapses into emptiness. Have both, and life flourishes. Consider Viktor Frankl again, in the concentration camps. He saw men stripped of everything: family, possessions, dignity, and yet some endured, not because of strength of body, but because of strength of purpose. They held on to virtue, refusing to become animals, and they held on to love, memories of wives, children, the beauty of life itself, that gave meaning even to their suffering. So, what about you? Why do you wake up each morning? To chase money? To impress strangers? To scroll endlessly, numbing yourself from the emptiness? Or do you rise with purpose? Do you rise with love? The Stoics warn us, you will not find meaning in pleasure or wealth. These are fleeting, fragile. Today they are yours, tomorrow they vanish. The mystics warn us, you will not find meaning in ego or status. These are illusions, shadows that dissolve in death. So where do we find it? In virtue, in awakening, in wisdom and love, in justice and compassion, in courage and surrender. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, the mystic Rumi, centuries later, saying, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. One speaks in the language of reason, the other in the language of the heart, but both point beyond the ego, beyond desire, beyond fear, toward a life lived not for the self, but for the greater whole. So when you ask, why am I here? Remember, you are here to grow wise. You are here to grow loving. You are here to become a vessel of truth, a servant of compassion, a spark of the infinite. The Stoic path leads you to virtue. The spiritual path leads you to awakening. And together, they lead you to the same summit, a life of meaning, unshaken by death, eternal in love. The past is a memory. The future is an illusion. And yet, strangely, we spend almost all our energy living in places that do not exist. We replay yesterday's failures again and again. We rehearse tomorrow's disasters before they ever happen. And while our minds wander through ghosts of time, the only real thing, the present, slips away unnoticed. The Stoics were painfully aware of this. Marcus Aurelius urged himself, confine yourself to the present. He reminded himself daily that life is not lived in years, not even in days, but in breaths. Each breath you take, each choice you make now, that is life. Everything else is abstraction. Epictetus sharpened this truth even further. The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly, this is in my control, that is not. And what is in your control right now? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, only the present. This moment and the response you choose within it. Now listen to the mystics. The Buddha said, do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. For him, suffering is born from the mind's refusal to stay here. We cling to what has already died, or we grasp at what does not yet exist, and we miss the miracle in front of us. The Sufi poets knew it too. Rumi whispered, try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even if you have never felt them before. Live in the opening and closing of each moment as if it were your first and last. And Eckhart Tolle, in our own age, put it simply, the present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. Different languages, same revelation. The now is not small. The now is infinite. Think back to a moment when you felt most alive. Was it the laughter of a friend? The colors of a sunset? The silence of a forest? In those moments, weren't you completely here? You weren't worrying about the bills or replaying old arguments. You were immersed, fully present. And in that presence, time seemed to dissolve. A single second felt eternal. Modern psychology calls this flow. Athletes feel it when every movement aligns. Artists feel it when creation pours through them effortlessly. Musicians feel it when they are lost in rhythm. In flow, action and awareness merge, and time disappears. Isn't this what the mystics described as union with the divine? Isn't this what the Stoics meant when they said, live in accordance with nature, here and now? Neuroscience supports this too. Studies on mindfulness meditation show that when people anchor themselves in the present through breath, awareness, stillness, the parts of the brain linked to stress and anxiety quiet down, while regions linked to focus and empathy light up. To be present is not only a spiritual idea, it is biological healing. And yet, how often do we abandon the present? We live as if life were rehearsal, as if the real show begins tomorrow. We tell ourselves, I will live when I am successful. I will live when I am healed. I will live when I have more time. But tomorrow never comes. Tomorrow is always tomorrow. Life is always now or never. Seneca warned, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. How do we waste it? By drifting into the past, by escaping into the future, by refusing to inhabit the only home we truly have, this moment. So, how do we return? Both Stoicism and Spiritualism give us practices. The Stoic practice is attention. Ask yourself throughout the day, is this in my control? If yes, act with courage and wisdom now. If not, release it now. Do not let your mind fight phantoms of time. The Spiritualist practice is mindfulness. Breathe. Feel your body. Watch your thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. Return again and again to this breath, this step, this heartbeat. A simple metaphor. Imagine holding a glass of water. If you hold it gently, it refreshes you. If you grip it tightly for hours, your arm aches, your strength fails. This is how we hold time. We clutch the past. We grasp the future. And the weight breaks us. But if we simply sip what is here, lightly, gratefully, life nourishes us again. Presence is not passive. It does not mean forgetting yesterday's lessons or ignoring tomorrow's responsibilities. It means rooting yourself in the only place you can truly act, love, forgive, and grow this moment. The Stoic says, do not lose yourself to what is not yours. The past and the future are not yours. Only the present belongs to you. The mystic says, the eternal is not tomorrow. The eternal is now. So I ask you, where is your mind even in this very moment? Are you here, listening fully, breathing deeply, alive to the miracle of this instant? Or is your mind elsewhere, wandering the corridors of time that no longer exist? Because life does not wait. It is happening here, now. And if you awaken to it, the present is not fleeting, it is eternal. To live in the present is not to shrink life down. It is to expand into eternity, one breath at a time. We have walked a long path together, from the discipline of the Stoics to the devotion of the mystics, from the fire of suffering to the light of unity, from the inevitability of death to the eternity of the soul. And now, here we stand, at the threshold of a single truth. At first, Stoicism and Spiritualism seemed like strangers. One spoke in the language of reason, the other in the language of faith. One demanded discipline, the other whispered surrender. But step by step we discovered that these were not contradictions, they were complements. Two paths climbing the same mountain. The Stoic said, control your mind, live with virtue, accept fate. The mystic said, open your heart, awaken your soul, trust the flow. And in the end, their voices merged into one chorus, live fully, live wisely, live lovingly here now. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Buddha reminded us, all we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. Two voices, two continents, 2 millennia apart, and yet perfectly aligned. So what does this mean for you? Sitting here, listening, breathing, it means you are not powerless. The storms outside may rage, but inside, there is a sanctuary waiting. It means you are not alone. You are the bee and the hive, the drop and the ocean, the spark and the fire. It means you are not merely mortal. You are woven of stardust and spirit, carrying eternity in your breath. The purpose of life is not hidden in some distant scripture or secret. It is here, waiting in plain sight. It is in the choices you make now, to be just, to be wise, to be courageous, to be loving, to be awake. And remember this paradox. To live well, you must remember death. To live wisely, you must embrace suffering. To live fully, you must return to the present. And when you live this way, you realize life has never been against you. It has always been your teacher. So as we close, I leave you with two whispers, one from each path. The Stoic whisper, memento mori, remember you must die. The spiritual whisper, you are eternal. Between these two truths, a bridge appears. A bridge where reason and faith shake hands, where discipline and love embrace, where you and the cosmos become one. Cross that bridge. Live as if every moment is a gift because it is. Live as if your choices echo through eternity because they do. Live as if you are both fragile and infinite because you are. And when your final moment comes, as it will for us all, may you meet it not with fear, but with a smile, knowing that you have lived, truly lived. Because Stoicism and Spiritualism were never two paths after all. They were always one, two voices, one truth, and that truth is you.